They used to call me the ugly high school graduate, and my family disowned me. 10 years later, I saw them again at my sister's wedding. Her husband asked, "Do you know her?" I answered, "More than you think." I'll never forget the look on their faces when I walked into my younger sister Sarah's wedding reception. 10 years had passed since the night they threw me out. 10 years since my own family decided I wasn't worthy of them because I didn't fit their definition of beauty or success. 3 weeks earlier, an elegant envelope had arrived at my office. White paper, gold lettering, announcing the union of Sarah Martinez and Michael Fuentes, son of one of the city's most influential real estate magnates. I stared at it for minutes, feeling a wave of cold memories wash over me. After years of silence, why now? Why invite me to celebrate their happiness after destroying mine? All through my teenage years, I was the unattractive one. Sarah was the family's golden girl, blonde, radiant, always smiling. I was the awkward one with braces, thick glasses, and acne. "Lucy, you should try harder with your looks," my mother often said, as if appearance were a choice, not genetics and hormones. My father, a businessman obsessed with image, barely acknowledged me at dinners. Everything changed on the night of my high school graduation. I overheard my father on the phone with a business associate saying, "Sarah is our family's jewel. The older one, well, she didn't inherit the good genes. An unattractive graduate doesn't look good for our family image." Those words struck deep like knives. The humiliation was unbearable. The next day, with tears in my eyes, I confronted them. I told them I'd heard everything, what they truly thought of me. My father's reaction wasn't remorse, it was anger. "So now you're eavesdropping?" he snapped. "It's the truth, Lucy. Sarah has always represented this family. You just don't fit in." My mother, as always, stood silently beside him. That night, I packed my bags and left. No one called. No apology followed. Just silence. A month later, a cousin told me they'd even changed the family will. I was erased completely. Over the years, anger turned into fuel. Not destructive revenge, but a drive to rebuild myself. I moved to another city, took several part-time jobs, and studied business administration. My acne cleared. I switched to contact lenses, started working out, and transformed both inside and out. Eventually, I launched my own financial consulting firm, one that, ironically, advised several of my father's competitors. Every achievement became a quiet message to those who'd rejected me. They didn't need me, but the world did. When I decided to attend the wedding, it wasn't for reconciliation. It was for closure. I wanted them to see the woman I'd become, despite them. I wore a red dress that highlighted my confidence, paired with simple jewelry and subtle makeup. As I entered the grand hotel ballroom, eyes turned toward me. No one recognized me. They only saw a poised stranger walking with purpose. The ceremony was perfect, as my family always demanded. Sarah looked stunning in her designer gown, and Michael gazed at her adoringly. From my seat in the back, I watched my parents, older now, yet still carrying that same air of superiority. When the reception began, I knew it was time to face them. I approached the main table, where the couple was receiving congratulations. Sarah's expression froze when she saw me. "Lucy," she whispered, stunned. Michael looked between us. "You know her?" I smiled calmly. "More than you think. I'm her older sister." Michael blinked in surprise. "Sister? You never mentioned having one." Sarah's face went pale. Behind her, my parents hurried over, their smiles stiff and forced. "Lucy," my father said in his carefully controlled tone. "What a surprise. We weren't sure you'd come." I kept my composure. I couldn't miss my only sister's wedding, right? Family is everything. Isn't that what you always said, Dad? His jaw tightened. My mother gave me a hollow hug. "You look different," she said, scanning me from head to toe. 10 years can change a person, I replied softly, especially when they have to rebuild their life from nothing. Michael, sensing the tension, stepped in. "It's great to meet you, Lucy." Sarah never mentioned much about her family background. "There's a lot about the Martinez family you'll learn," I said with a polite smile. Sarah quickly added, "Lucy decided to take her own path years ago. We just had differences." I repeated her words slowly. Differences. That's one way to describe being disowned for not being beautiful enough. A heavy silence settled. My father, ever mindful of appearances, murmured, "This isn't the time or place, Lucy. It's your sister's special day." "Of course," I said evenly. I wouldn't want to ruin another family celebration. I had enough with my own graduation. Remember, Dad? The ugly graduate who didn't fit your business image? My father froze. He hadn't expected me to repeat his words from so long ago. Michael looked confused. "I don't understand," he said, glancing at my father. "I think he does." I replied quietly, "But as you said, it's Sarah's day. Let's enjoy the party." I turned and walked away, feeling their eyes on my back. Revenge wasn't about chaos tonight. It would be calm and deliberate. At the bar, a man in a dark suit approached me with a smile. "Impressive entrance," he said, offering champagne. "Gabriel Vega, Michael's business partner." "Lucy Martinez," I replied, accepting the glass. "Martinez, related to the bride?" he asked curiously. "Older sister, the one no one talks about." He chuckled softly. "I worked with your father once. Quite an interesting man." "That's a diplomatic way of putting it," I said with a faint laugh. "Diplomacy is my skill," Gabriel replied. "But I get the feeling you prefer honesty." "Honesty cost me my family," I said. "So yes, I value it." Our conversation paused when the MC announced the couple's first dance. Sarah glided across the floor, glowing under the lights. "There must be a story behind your absence," Gabriel remarked quietly. "There is. A story about a toxic family and impossible expectations," I said honestly. "I'd like to hear it someday," he replied, his eyes showing more than casual interest. "Why?" I asked. "Let's just say your father and I didn't part on good terms," he said, "and something tells me you might know a few things worth sharing." So my father had wronged him too. Interesting. Later, I noticed my parents subtly keeping me away from important guests. They didn't want anyone to know who I really was. During dinner, they seated me at a far-off table with distant relatives. It didn't matter. I had my own plans. When it was time for speeches, my father took the microphone. "Dear friends and family," he began, his voice polished and firm. "Today is one of the happiest days of my life, seeing my daughter Sarah, my pride, marry Michael." As he went on about love and unity, I felt a surge of anger. How could the man who threw me away for being unattractive preach about family? When he finished to applause, the MC invited others to share their wishes. I stood up before I could think twice. Panic flashed across my family's faces. I took the microphone and smiled. "Good evening. I'm Lucy Martinez, Sarah's older sister." A wave of murmurs spread across the room. Many guests didn't even know I existed. For those wondering why you've never seen me before, I said evenly. Let's just say I've been walking my own path. I turned to Sarah. You've always been the family star. Seeing you today, I understand why. I paused just long enough. I wish you happiness, Sarah. And Michael, I wish you wisdom to truly understand the family you've married into. I placed the microphone down and returned to my seat amid polite applause and confused whispers. I hadn't insulted anyone. But those who knew the truth felt the sting. Moments later, Michael approached. Can we talk? I followed him to a quiet corner. Your speech was interesting, he said. I kept it civil, considering the history, I replied. What history? He asked sincerely. Sarah said you left because of personal differences. Families can be complicated, I said carefully. In ours, beauty and success mattered more than love. I didn't meet their standards, so they shut me out. You mean they kicked you out? He asked, shocked. Let's just say they made sure I had no place there, I replied. You might want to know who you've married into, especially before having children. I could see the doubt form in his eyes. There's more to this, isn't there? Before I could answer, Sarah appeared, her voice sugary, but her eyes furious. Michael, they're calling for pictures. I'll be right there, he said, still uneasy. Lucy, we'll talk later. Anytime, I replied calmly. As soon as he left, Sarah hissed. What are you doing? You came here after 10 years just to ruin my wedding. Ruin it? I said evenly. I'm just talking. You, on the other hand, are hiding the truth. You were always jealous of me, she snapped. You wanted what I had. Jealous? I laughed bitterly. I never wanted your beauty or attention. I wanted acceptance. But I guess that was too much to ask. You left on your own, she said defensively. Really? Or did Dad make sure I couldn't get a job anywhere in town after you changed the will? She paled. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, you do, I said calmly. You were there when he called his partners to blacklist me. Sarah looked away. Silence was confirmation. For years I thought I hated you, I said softly. But now I see I should thank all of you. If you hadn't cast me out, I would have never built my own strength or my company. Her eyes narrowed. Company? Financial consulting, I said. We've advised several firms that compete with Dad. In fact, we helped with the acquisition that nearly destroyed his Monte Verde project last year. Her face drained of color. That was you? That was business, I replied. Revenge starts tonight. Before she could respond, Gabriel reappeared. Sorry to interrupt, he said with a knowing smile. Lucy, would you like to dance? I took his hand and left Sarah speechless. On the dance floor, Gabriel said quietly, Your presence has everyone nervous, especially your father. I glanced at him. He's not used to facing people he's wronged. Edward Martinez and I have history, Gabriel admitted. I developed an investment model he presented as his own. When I confronted him, he fired me. I nodded. Sounds familiar. He specializes in discarding those who don't fit his plans. As we danced, I noticed Michael watching us from afar. When the song ended, Gabriel led me back to my seat, but Michael intercepted us. Lucy, I'd like to introduce you to my parents, he said formally. This was clearly not what my father wanted. My mother's alarmed whisper reached him, but it was too late. Michael guided me to an elegant couple. Mom, Dad, this is Lucy Martinez, Sarah's sister. Frank Fuentes, the family patriarch, shook my hand. I didn't know Sarah had a sister. Seems to be the theme tonight, I said politely. My father hurried over. Lucy hasn't attended family events in a while, he explained, strained. 10 years, actually, I clarified, since I started my own business. Business? Frank asked with interest. What do you do? Before I could answer, my father tried to interrupt. Lucy was always independent. She chose her own way. I'm the founder and CEO of Altus Consultants, I said clearly. We specialize in financial restructuring and strategic acquisitions. Recognition lit up Frank's eyes. Altus? The firm behind the Torres-Mendoza merger? The same, I confirmed. Impressive, Frank said. That merger changed the real estate market. Thank you, I said, enjoying my father's silent shock. Sometimes, Frank added, turning to my father, the best talents thrive when they're allowed to grow on their own. He handed me his card. Let's discuss collaboration soon. It would be my pleasure, I said, handing him mine in return. As Frank walked away, I could see the humiliation on my father's face. The same man who once called me an embarrassment now watched another mogul praise my success. Later, Michael found me again. I don't get it, he said quietly. If you're this successful, why does your family act like you're some secret? I looked at him seriously. Michael, the answer to that could change the way you see your new family forever. Are you sure you want to hear it tonight? He hesitated, then nodded. I need to understand, he finally responded, and I took a deep breath before reading it. I was disinherited and expelled from the family, he said, for a reason that might sound absurd to you. I wasn't attractive enough by my father's standards. Michael's expression showed pure disbelief. My father had built his empire on flawless appearances. Sarah, with her natural charm, had always been his prized display in social circles. I, on the other hand, with acne, braces, and an awkward figure during adolescence, was considered a disgrace. Michael looked genuinely disturbed. That's inhumane, he said. The night of my graduation, I continued, I overheard him call me the ugly graduate who tarnished the family image. When I confronted him, he didn't deny it. He said I didn't belong in his plans. A month later, I found out they had changed the will to erase me completely. Michael absorbed my words, clearly realizing why Sarah had never mentioned a sister. Was Sarah okay with this? He asked finally. Sarah was always the obedient daughter, I said softly. She never stood up for me, never came looking for me later. For them, pretending I didn't exist was easier. Michael ran his hand through his hair, visibly unsettled. I can't believe I got married without knowing something so significant. At that moment, a realization struck me. My revenge wasn't about destroying Sarah's life or humiliating my parents publicly. True justice meant reclaiming my story, owning my truth, and letting consequences fall where they may. I didn't come here to break your marriage, Michael, I said sincerely. I came to reclaim my place, to prove they couldn't destroy me. What you do with this truth is up to you. Our conversation paused when the MC announced the bouquet toss. Single women gathered at the dance floor as Sarah, radiant in her wedding gown, prepared for the traditional throw. From where I stood, I saw my mother whisper something in Sarah's ear while glancing at me. Sarah nodded subtly. I understood instantly. One last attempt at public humiliation. All single ladies to the floor, the host called cheerfully. A group of women excitedly took their spots as Sarah stepped onto a small flower-decked platform. Gabriel approached me, handing me a glass of champagne. Not joining the ritual of romantic desperation? He teased. I'll pass, I said, keeping my eyes on the scene. Something tells me that bouquet is programmed to avoid me anyway. From her elevated position, Sarah surveyed the crowd. When her gaze met mine, she wore that familiar smirk, the same one she'd always had when she was about to get what I wanted. My mother, standing by the dance floor, nodded discreetly. Family traditions are fascinating, Gabriel said dryly. Especially when loaded with hidden meanings, I replied. In the Martinez family, nothing is random. Every action, every word, every omission has intent. Sarah turned and threw the bouquet with a theatrical spin. It landed precisely in the hands of a young woman who looked strikingly like Michael. His cousin, I guessed. Another subtle act of exclusion. No one else noticed, but I caught the message clearly. Even in harmless traditions, I was the outsider, the one who didn't deserve even a symbolic chance. Predictable, I murmured. Does it bother you? Gabriel asked quietly. No, I said truthfully. It just proves I made the right choice to build my life away from them. The party continued. I noticed Michael was distant from Sarah, still affected by our talk. My parents, sensing tension, worked quickly to keep the couple away from me with photo sessions and introductions that filled their time. During the final toast, my father took the microphone. His expression carried strain, but his voice remained steady and commanding. Dear friends, family, and distinguished guests, he began, before we end this wonderful celebration, I want to thank you for joining us on this special day. As a father, there is no greater pride than seeing a daughter achieve happiness. He paused dramatically before continuing. Sarah has always embodied the values our family stands for: beauty, intelligence, and devotion. Each word hit me like a dart. The message was obvious. Sarah was everything I wasn't. Today, as she unites with Michael, we celebrate not only love, but the merging of two families who share the same ideals. He raised his glass to them. The crowd applauded. Then, something unexpected happened. Michael's father, Frank Fuentes, stood up with his own glass. If I may add a few words, he said authoritatively. The room fell silent. Tonight has been revealing, he began, locking eyes with my father. I've realized that appearances can deceive, and that sometimes true talent within a family can be hidden or intentionally ignored. A murmur spread through the room. My father stiffened. I'm pleased to announce, Frank continued, that beyond celebrating our children's union, I've also discovered a remarkable professional opportunity. I'll soon begin a collaboration with a brilliant businesswoman, one I've just learned belongs to the Martinez. He turned toward me. Lucy, your strategic insight and accomplishments at Altus Consultants are precisely what Fuentes Corporation needs for our next expansion. The silence was absolute. Every eye turned toward me, including my parents, whose expressions mixed horror and disbelief. It will be an honor to collaborate with you, Mr. Fuentes, I said steadily. The honor is mine, he replied. Sometimes the most valuable gems are the ones others fail to recognize. He looked directly at my father as he said it. The years of humiliation I'd endured were turning into poetic justice. The country's most respected businessman had just validated my worth in front of those who once dismissed me. Later, as guests began to leave, my mother approached with a forced smile. Lucy, dear, what a lovely surprise tonight, she said, her tone insincere. Your father and I always knew you had potential. Please, Mom, I said calmly. We both know my potential only mattered once Frank Fuentes acknowledged it publicly. That's not fair, she objected. We always loved you. You chose to distance yourself. Not fair? I repeated. You want to talk about fairness? You changed the will to erase me and made sure no local firm would hire me. She lowered her eyes, unable to respond. Your father only wanted what was best for the family business, she muttered. For his ego, you mean, I corrected. But I'm grateful. Their rejection forced me to discover my strength. My father joined us, his confidence gone, replaced by cautious calculation. Lucy, he began, attempting diplomacy. It seems you've done quite well for yourself. I'm impressed. No, Dad, I said. Or the manipulated Monteverde contracts that hurt small investors. He paled. How do I know? I finished for him. I've tracked Martinez investments for 10 years. Every project, every shady deal. Did you think my involvement in the operation that nearly ruined Monteverde was coincidence? For the first time, he looked at me with something resembling respect and fear. What do you want? He asked finally. Nothing, I said. 10 years ago, I only wanted a family that valued me for who I was. Now, I just want you to see who I became despite you. My mother tried to intervene softly. Lucy, maybe we can meet soon. Talk things over. Family is important. Family? I repeated. Family loves you unconditionally. You never did. Your love always had conditions, ones I could never meet. Sarah appeared then, visibly shaken, mascara smudged. What did you tell Michael? She demanded. He's been cold all evening. Sarah's complicated like the rest of the family, but that doesn't mean she can't be a good wife. Everyone was stunned, especially Sarah. What my parents did was cruel, I continued. But they made their own choices. Sarah simply followed along, like always. My father, anxious to end the scene, spoke quickly. This isn't the place for family matters. Still worried about appearances, I said. Some things never change. Frank Fuentes stepped in then. Michael, Sarah, he said firmly. Your car's waiting. Your flight leaves early. Sarah eagerly took Michael's arm. Let's go, dear. Michael hesitated, then looked at me. Lucy, I'd like to keep in touch. There's more I need to understand. Of course, I said, handing him my card. Anytime. As they left, I saw the tension between them, a seed of doubt now planted. Frank lingered. Quite the family you have, Miss Martinez. You have no idea, I replied. On the contrary, he said, smiling knowingly. That's exactly why I look forward to working with you. Edward Martinez has been a ruthless rival for years. Sometimes, justice needs unlikely allies. Justice comes in many forms, I replied carefully. Indeed, he nodded. My office will reach out Monday to finalize things. As guests trickled out, Gabriel returned. Ready to go? Almost, I said. There's one last thing I need to do. I approached my parents, who were chatting with the last guests. Once they were alone, I said, I'm leaving now. Lucy, my father began, trying for a gentle tone I'd never heard before. Perhaps we were too harsh. You've clearly proven your worth. My worth? I echoed. Interesting choice of words. Now I have worth. Because Frank Fuentes sees value in me? Because I'm a potential threat to your empire? Don't be so cold, my mother said. He's trying to make peace. A bridge built on self-interest, not remorse, I answered. But that's fine. I didn't come for apologies. Then why are you here? My father asked. I met his eyes, the same ones that had once looked at me with disdain. To close a chapter, I said quietly. To show you that the ugly graduate you disowned became someone stronger and far more successful than you ever imagined. Every time my name appears in business news, every time a competitor wins a contract using my guidance, it serves as a quiet reminder of what you lost. A heavy silence filled the space between us. For the first time, I saw something unfamiliar in my father's eyes. Regret. It was never my intention to hurt you, he said at last, his voice stripped of its usual confidence. Intentions matter less than actions, I replied, and your actions were very clear. My mother, with tears brimming, reached for my arm. Lucy, please, you're our daughter. No, Mom, I stepped back slightly. I stopped being your daughter the day you allowed them to cast me out without saying a word in my defense. Blood may connect us, but family is built on far more than that. With that, I turned to leave. Lucy, wait, my father called. When I turned back, I saw something else I'd never seen in him. Vulnerability. Is there any chance to repair this? He asked softly. I paused, considering his question. The revenge I had envisioned for years had finally taken form, but not in the way I had imagined. There was no bitter satisfaction, only an unexpected sense of freedom. I don't know, Dad, I said honestly. 10 years of silence and rejection can't be undone in a single evening. But if you truly want to try, you'll have to do something you never did before. Value me for who I am, not for what I can offer you. I turned and walked away, feeling the burden of a decade of pain begin to lift. Gabriel was waiting for me at the entrance. Everything okay? He asked, offering his arm. Surprisingly, yes, I said, taking it. I think I've finally stopped being the overlooked graduate and simply become Lucy. As I left the elegant hotel, the cool night air felt like a promise. The revenge I had once planned had evolved into something far greater, true liberation. The next morning dawned bright and clear, reflecting my own sense of calm. Sitting on the terrace of my hotel suite, sipping coffee while checking emails, I felt lighter than I had in years. My revenge had transformed into something deeper, a personal vindication that no one could take away. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Gabriel. Breakfast. I've got something you'll want to hear about the Monte Verde project. I smiled. Gabriel Vega had turned out to be much more than an ally on that fateful night. His insight into my father's operations could be invaluable for my next business steps. We met at a quiet cafe, far from places the Martinez family frequented. Gabriel, polished even in casual clothes, was reviewing papers over espresso. Good morning, I greeted, taking a seat. I hope this information was worth an early Sunday wake-up. He smiled, closing his briefcase. Believe me, it is. But first, how do you feel after last night? Not everyone faces 10 years of family humiliation in one evening. Surprisingly free, I admitted. It's like I let go of a weight I didn't know I was carrying. Justice tends to have that effect, Gabriel said thoughtfully. Though I imagine your family is feeling something quite different this morning. I wouldn't be surprised, I replied, as the waiter served my coffee. My father is probably calculating how to contain the threat I've become, especially with the Fuentes alliance ahead. Gabriel pushed a folder across the table. About that, I've gathered documentation on the Monte Verde project irregularities. Your father didn't just alter contracts. There are records of bribes to municipal officials to speed up permits. I examined the documents with growing interest. The evidence was explosive, enough to tarnish Martinez Investments' name and invite legal scrutiny. How did you get this? I asked, impressed. Let's say I wasn't the only employee who left unhappy, he replied. I still keep contact with others who've kept detailed records for years. While I studied the papers, my phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Lucy Martinez? A woman asked. Yes, who's speaking? I'm Claudia, assistant to Frank Fuentes. Mr. Fuentes would like to meet you this afternoon if possible. It's an urgent matter. I looked at Gabriel, intrigued. Of course, I said. Where and when? At his main office, 3 o'clock. I'll send the address. After the call, I told Gabriel. Seems our weekend of revelations isn't over, he remarked. Frank Fuentes doesn't schedule Sunday meetings unless it's serious or profitable. At 3 sharp, I arrived at the Fuentes Corporation headquarters. The atmosphere radiated quiet power, unlike my father's gaudy offices. Frank Fuentes received me with courteous professionalism. To my surprise, Michael was already there, looking tired and strained. "Lucy, thank you for coming," Frank began. "The situation is delicate." Michael spoke up. "I canceled the honeymoon." His voice was hollow, stripped of joy. "What? Why?" I asked, genuinely shocked. My goal had never been to ruin their marriage, only to expose the truth. "After our talk last night, I confronted Sarah," Michael explained. "I wanted to hear her side, but she confirmed everything, and even more. She admitted not only that your family rejected you for superficial reasons, but that she actively helped make it happen." Frank continued. "Normally, I avoid personal issues, but this one affects business interests." "How?" I asked. "Sarah revealed your father has been using confidential information to manipulate acquisitions. Information that Michael shared, trusting his wife's discretion." Michael looked crushed. "I was foolish. I thought I was confiding in my future wife, not feeding an informant for Edward Martinez." The truth stunned me. My sister had once helped expel me from the family, and now had betrayed her own husband for our father's benefit. "A perfect example of toxic loyalty," I muttered. "Exactly," Frank said. "And now we have a serious problem. Sensitive data about our future strategies is in your father's hands, risking millions." "And where do I come in?" I asked, though I already suspected. "We need your help," Frank said. "Your insight into Edward Martinez's methods and your financial expertise could be critical." Michael added, "You're the only family member who's shown integrity through all this." The irony wasn't lost on me. The same family that had rejected me was now dealing with the fallout of their own deceit. "I understand," I said carefully. "But what about Sarah?" Michael looked away. "She's at your parents' house. I asked for time to reconsider our marriage." "And legally?" "We're still evaluating," Frank answered. "If the misuse of information is confirmed, we'll take action." A chill ran through me. The revenge I had dreamed of was unfolding on its own, with consequences I hadn't intended. "I need time to think," I said finally. "Of course," Frank replied, "but don't take too long. Time is critical when leaks are involved." Leaving the building, my thoughts raced. The poetic justice was undeniable. But did I really want to be the instrument of their downfall? Then my phone rang again. My mother's voice trembled on the other end. "Lucy, we need to talk. It's urgent." "What happened?" I asked cautiously. "Your father? He's had a heart attack. He's in the hospital. He's been asking for you." For a moment, I couldn't speak. Despite everything, the news hit hard. "Is it serious?" "Yes. Stable for now, but serious." "I'll come," I said quietly. The hospital where my father lay was the same one where I was born 32 years ago. Walking those sterile corridors, I felt the weight of my decision, whether to forgive, seek revenge, or simply close the chapter. In the waiting area, I found Sarah with smudged makeup and swollen eyes. She stood uncertainly when she saw me. "She came," she whispered to our mother. My mother approached, visibly aged. "Thank you for coming," she said softly. "It means so much." "I didn't come for you," I said honestly. "I came because despite everything, he's still my father." Sarah avoided my eyes. "Michael told you everything, didn't he?" "Yes," I said, though I still don't understand why. "Why betray your own husband?" "Dad asked me to," she murmured. "He said it was my duty as a daughter." "And you've always done your duty, haven't you?" I said evenly. Tears ran down her face. "I'm sorry, Lucy. I was selfish and cowardly." A doctor interrupted us. "He's conscious, and he wants to see you," Only you. Inside the dim room, my father looked frail, diminished by tubes and machines. You came, he whispered. Yes, Dad, I said, sitting beside him. Silence hung between us. 10 years of pain, too heavy for words. The doctors say I'll recover, he said, but it's been a wake-up call. I nodded quietly. Lucy, he said, struggling for breath, what we did to you was unforgivable. His words stunned me. I had never heard Edward Martinez admit fault. Why now? I asked. Because you're in a hospital bed, or because I'm now a business threat? He winced, but didn't deny it. I deserve your anger, he said. Last night, after you left, Sarah told me everything about Michael. And I finally saw what I'd done, to all of us. That's when the pain in my chest began. Literally, my heart broke for what I'd become. He paused, tears filling his eyes. I built everything on appearances, beauty, status, image, and in doing so, I lost my daughter. I lost the chance to know the woman you became. When Fuentes praised you last night, I didn't feel fear or envy. I felt pride. A pride I hadn't earned. He looked at me with genuine remorse. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know I finally see the damage I caused. I breathed deeply, torn between resentment and compassion. What about Sarah's information? I asked. Were you planning to use it? He nodded weakly. That was the plan, but I told her this morning that it ends. No more deceit. And she believed you? No, he admitted faintly. After all these years, who would? He sighed. She confessed everything to Michael instead. Wanted to protect him. Sarah is devastated, I said quietly. As she should be, he replied. I taught her the wrong values. A nurse entered softly. He needs to rest. As I stood to leave, my father grasped my hand. Lucy, he said, I've changed my will. You're reinstated, not out of pity, but because it's right. It's not about money, Dad, I whispered. I know. It's about recognition, about justice. I left the room with mixed emotions. In the waiting area, my mother approached hesitantly. I never defended you, she began, voice trembling. I was afraid of your father, of being alone. But I realize now that fear cost me something far greater, my relationship with you. Her sincerity broke through my walls. I can't change the past, she continued, but if you'll let me, I'd like to be part of your future. Before I could reply, my phone buzzed again. It was Gabriel. Urgent update, Fuentes meeting. Call me. I excused myself and called him. Frank Fuentes just called an emergency meeting, he said. Despite Sarah's confession, he's still pursuing legal action against your father. Are you sure? Completely. Justice now threatened to turn into destruction. Thanks, Gabriel, I said. I'll handle it. I returned to my mother and Sarah. I have to go, I said. Will you come back? My mother asked. Yes, I promised. 3 hours later, I stood in Frank Fuentes' office again. Lucy, this is a surprise, he said. How's your father? Stable and clear-headed enough to make decisions, I replied. I came with a proposal, I continued. A strategic merger between Altus Consultants and Martinez Investments Real Estate Division. My company can serve as an intermediary. It's mutually beneficial. Fuentes gains access to key projects without legal risks, and my father retains part of his legacy. Frank considered this. Why should I agree when I could simply eliminate a competitor? Because alliances last longer than revenge, I replied. And my insight into both companies guarantees a smooth transition. And your father? He'll agree, I said confidently. Frank smiled slightly. I've always preferred innovation to destruction. Draft the details and we'll review them. But if this is a stall, it's not, I assured him. It benefits everyone, even Michael. Frank's expression softened. He's conflicted, he said. Despite everything, he still cares for Sarah. Love is complicated, I said simply. But sometimes people deserve a second chance. After leaving, the following weeks were filled with meetings and negotiations. Gabriel's expertise proved essential, and the plan began to work. A week later, Sarah appeared at my office. "Sorry for coming unannounced," she said softly. She looked exhausted. "Michael and I are in counseling. He wants to try again." "I'm glad," I said sincerely. Tears welled in her eyes. "I always envied you," she confessed. "Me?" I asked, surprised. "For your freedom," she said. "I spent my life trying to please Dad. Altis Martinez Fuentes became a real estate powerhouse. My father, recovered, stepped back into an advisory role. Family relations slowly healed, awkward meals turning into real conversations. One afternoon, Michael called. "Lucy, I wanted to thank you personally," he said. "The merger is a success. My father can't stop praising your strategy, and Sarah's changing. We're rebuilding." "I'm happy for you both," I said. "We're having a small dinner Saturday. Just family." "Sarah insisted you be invited." "Family," I repeated softly. 10 years ago, I'd been excluded from that word. Now, I was being welcomed in. "I'll be there," I said. As I hung up, I looked out the window at the skyline. The revenge I had once sought had become something greater. The chance to rebuild on my own terms. I was no longer the rejected daughter seeking approval. I was Lucy Martinez, a woman who found her voice, her strength, and her own definition of justice. On my desk sat Sarah's framed wedding invitation beside a new photo. My father, mother, Sarah, Michael, and me, at the launch of our first joint project. We weren't perfect. We were flawed, scarred, and healing. And maybe that was the truest revenge. Not destruction, but transformation. Because some stories aren't just tales. They're reflections of life itself. If this one moved you, help us share more stories that deserve to be heard. Thank you, and have an excellent day.